Have you noticed how the rules for AI seem to be changing all the time? Well, there's a really good reason for that. We aren't living in one unified world of AI. We're actually living in three. Right now, the global rulebook is fracturing, creating these three distinct zones, each with its own philosophy, its own laws, and, its own future. So let's get into it. It really all boils down to this one question. Why can't the biggest names in tech, the very companies building our future, agree on a single set of rules? And the answer, well, it turns out it's not really about the technology itself. It's about philosophy. And that philosophy is reshaping everything from global business to your own career. So what does this division actually look like in the real world? This isn't some abstract political debate. It's playing out in the headlines you see every single day. I mean, just think about the headlines you see all the time. You've got Meta constantly fighting with Europe over data privacy. You've got TikTok's endless data battles in the US and the EU. Apple had to completely re-engineer how iCloud works just for China. And then there's the fact that one of the world's most famous AIs, ChatGPT, is just flat out blocked there. These aren't just random isolated incidents. Nope, they're all symptoms of a much, much deeper split. To really understand why all this is happening, we've got to look at the core ideas driving the world's three big AI superpowers: the United States, the European Union, and China. Each one has a fundamentally different worldview when it comes to technology. And this right here, this really boils it all down. You can think of it like their digital DNA. The US pretty much operates on a build first, fix later motto, all about prioritizing speed and innovation. The EU, on the other hand, lives by protect people first, putting human rights and safety above everything else. And China's approach is control for national goals, because they see AI as a critical piece of national infrastructure. Honestly, these three little mottos, they explain almost every tech conflict we see today. Okay, so let's break down the US model first. It's all about risk-based innovation. The government, for the most part, prefers to stay out of the way. It encourages companies to innovate using these voluntary guides like the NIST AI Risk Management Framework. The whole idea is that AI is kind of innocent until proven guilty. Now, this creates incredible speed and a really powerful private sector, but it can also lead to some pretty fragmented rules. Now, let's jump over to the EU, which is, well, it's almost the complete opposite. Their philosophy is precautionary protection. Before an AI system can even be launched, it has to prove it's not going to harm people's fundamental rights. This is the absolute heart of their landmark EU AI Act. The idea here is that technology has to serve people, not the other way around. It's a human-centric model built on trust and safety. And finally, we've got China's cyber sovereignty. Here, the state sees AI as a pillar of national security and economic power. It's not just some commercial tool, it's critical infrastructure. And that means control is everything, and it's enforced through this powerful trio of laws covering cybersecurity, data security, and personal information. The philosophy is super simple. If you control the AI, you control the future. Okay, so those are the big ideas, the core philosophies. But how do those ideas translate into actual enforceable legal systems? This is where the differences become incredibly sharp. Just look at this breakdown. It illustrates the divide so clearly. The US system is decentralized. It really relies on voluntary standards. The EU, totally centralized, with the AI Act as its core and one set of harmonized standards for everyone. China is also centralized, but with mandatory standards enforced directly by the state. You could say the US trusts the market, the EU trusts its institutions, and China trusts the state. And to see how this works in practice, just look at the EU's risk pyramid. It's actually incredibly logical. Down at the bottom, you have things like spam filters, basically no restrictions. Move up a level to chatbots, and you just need to be transparent about it. But when you get to high-risk areas like hiring or healthcare AI, there are very, very strict rules. And then at the very top, things like government social scoring are just banned completely. This is precautionary protection in action. So, with three different rulebooks, what happens when one company has to play in all three sandboxes at the same time? Well, you enter what's called the global compliance maze. Remember those headlines from the beginning? Now they make perfect sense, right? Meta's fight was a direct clash between the US market-led approach and the EU's rights-first approach. TikTok had to literally create Project Texas and Project Clover to build these data fortresses to satisfy different regional laws. Apple complies with China's state control model, and Microsoft has to build separate regional silos for its AI. Every single one of these is a direct result of these clashing philosophies.
So, how do these companies even survive this? Well, they essentially become corporate diplomats. A lot of them now design their products to meet the EU's strict laws first, because it's way easier to scale down on regulations than to scale up. They build totally separate data centers for each region. They create entire internal departments of lawyers and ethicists just to navigate this maze. It's incredibly complex, it's super expensive, and it is the new reality. But listen, this isn't just a challenge for big corporations. This global split is directly shaping your education and the jobs of the future.
I mean, look at how these different philosophies are trickling all the way down into the classroom. In the US, the curriculum is really focused on entrepreneurship and applied AI. In the EU, it's all about ethics, law, and governance. And in China, it's aligned with national goals like engineering and automation. Each region is basically creating a different type of AI professional.
So, in the US, universities are minting innovators. These are the builders, the creators, the startup founders who are trained to move fast, experiment, and solve problems through really quick iteration, with very few legal limits holding them back. Then in the EU, they're creating ethicists. These are the people who can audit an algorithm for bias, navigate these incredibly complex compliance laws, and basically act as a translator between the worlds of technology and policy. And by the way, this is a booming career field. And over in China, the focus is on producing strategists. These are the engineers and system architects who just excel at building technology at a massive scale, making sure it's efficient and perfectly aligned with national strategic priorities. So here's probably the most important takeaway for your career. The most valuable people moving forward won't be experts in just one of these worlds. They'll be what you could call bilinguals of governance, people who are fluent in the language of technology and the language of policy, who can build those crucial bridges between innovation and trust. Ultimately, it all comes down to this really simple but powerful idea. AI isn't some neutral force of nature. It's a mirror. It reflects the values, the priorities, and the philosophies of the societies that build it. And that leaves us with one final question for you to think about. As you consider your education, your career, and the kind of world you want to live in, which philosophy will you build your future on? The freedom to innovate, the protection of human rights, or the power of strategic control? The choice will define not just your path, but the kind of intelligence our world grows into tomorrow.